Since its inception in 1958, NASA has achieved many extraordinary milestones. From launching satellites into space to exploring distant planets, NASA has solidified its position as a global space leader. Yet, lurking beneath the surface of this celebrated agency lies a world filled with high-level cover-ups and hidden truths, particularly with respect to extraterrestrial life. NASA's recent public interest in UFOs or UAPs has only fueled the fire of these conspiracies. In May of 2022, NASA formed an independent UAP study team.
We, NASA, have taken for the first time concrete action to seriously look into UAP.
Less than 2 months before NASA's UAP team presented its findings to the public in September of 2023, former senior intelligence officer David Grusch testified before Congress.
Mr. Grusch, finally, do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General, and some of which to the intelligence committees. I actually had the people with the first-hand knowledge provide a protected disclosure to the Inspector General.
This was NASA's reply regarding Grusch's testimony.
What he said, if I recall having seen this on the nightly news, was that he had a friend that knew where a warehouse was that had an UFO locked up in a warehouse.
If NASA is dedicated to studying UAPs, why does NASA's director know nothing about David Grusch and his allegations? Grusch is undoubtedly the most significant UAP whistleblower in history, and his claims have serious implications. Even if NASA believes Grusch is lying under oath, would it not be important for NASA to confirm that belief? While NASA's lack of interest in Grusch's claims may seem odd to those new to the UFO topic, this type of suspicious statement from NASA is all too familiar. Throughout its history, the emergence of covert military missions, concealed and altered photos, countless whistleblowers, and claims from government hackers only just begin to paint the picture of NASA's secrecy. Does NASA know we are being visited by a non-human intelligence? Or is there something even more profound being hidden? Join us as we uncover the captivating secrets of NASA's most mysterious UFO and alien conspiracies. In 1958, NASA was established as a civilian agency with the aim of advancing peaceful space exploration and scientific understanding. However, during the Cold War, the U.S. used NASA to compete with the Soviet space program at every turn, publicizing its achievements as a source of national pride. But just as NASA shared these achievements with the public, a darker side to NASA withholding information began to emerge. In 1961, JFK delivered his famous speech emphasizing the United States' goal of landing on the moon before the Soviets.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
In an effort to win this race to the moon, NASA made the decision to enlist many Nazi scientists who were recruited through the classified Operation Paperclip. In addition to putting its ethics aside and working with war criminals, NASA began developing a relationship with the National Reconnaissance Office, also known as the NRO, a secret U.S. space agency formed for the purpose of spying on the Soviet Union. Specifically, NASA needed to use NRO cameras to capture photos of the moon to map its landing area. Open collaboration was not possible due to the NRO's clandestine military nature. Nonetheless, NASA secretly worked with the NRO. By 1967, NASA scientists had collected all the photos it needed for the moon landing. However, this was just the beginning of NASA's relationship with the NRO, a relationship that would lay the foundation for NASA's covert operations. In 1969, NASA embarked on the development of reusable space shuttles. At the request of the NRO, NASA secretly designed the space shuttles to house NRO espionage equipment, and eventually used these space shuttles for numerous secret NRO missions. Now, while the details of these missions remain deeply classified, it is safe to assume that these missions were not perfectly aligned with NASA's position as a peaceful civilian space agency. Eventually, in 1992, the existence of the NRO and its relationship with NASA was declassified. This begs the question, if NASA was able to hide a major relationship with a top secret government agency for multiple decades, what else has it been hiding? In July of 1976, NASA scientist Toby Owen found himself engrossed in the study of mosaic Polaroids of the Martian surface captured by the Viking 1 orbiter. There, on frame 35A72, he spotted something extraordinary in the Cydonia region, an oddly distinctive mesa that would ignite a lasting firestorm of speculation and controversy. As he examined the image further, the visibility of a mile-wide human face etched into the surface became even more pronounced. Shocked, Owen reported the finding, and it was eventually made public, quickly being dubbed the Face of Mars. And this was just the beginning. Shortly after the discovery, NASA dismissed the finding as a, quote, trick of light, emphasizing that it was nothing more than a natural formation. NASA cited a second photo as evidence of this claim, but never provided this second photo. Not only that, behind the scenes, NASA continued to study the area intensively, and even modified its Viking mission landing site to avoid bringing any more public attention to the Cydonia region. Was there something going on in Cydonia that NASA wanted to keep secret? Unsatisfied with NASA's quick dismissal, author Richard Hoagland formed multiple independent investigative teams to study the images further. These teams discovered pyramid-like formations near the face and other structures that seemed to follow a mathematical pattern. Particularly notable was the DNM pyramid, a 5-sided pyramid, 3 times larger than the Pyramid of Giza. In his book, Monuments of Mars, Hoagland proposes that these structures are evidence of an ancient alien city. And Hoagland was not alone in this belief. Professional satellite image specialist Errol Torin concluded that many of the objects, including the face and the DNM pyramid, were not of natural origin. When discussing the DNM pyramid, Torin states that it is unlike any natural land formation on any planet in our solar system. Intrigued and determined to find out more, Hoagland's research teams would eventually uncover the second photo of the face mentioned by NASA. There was only one problem. Contrary to NASA's public statement, this second photo only strengthened the claim that the face was the result of artificial construction. In this second photo, not only were the edges of the face more distinct, but an accurately placed nostril and iris were also observable. Facing pressure from the public, NASA reluctantly agreed to take more pictures of Cydonia with the Mars Observer in 1993. But, as many eagerly anticipated answers, something unexpected happened. NASA allegedly lost all contact with the observer. There would be no new pictures of Mars. According to Hoagland, NASA insiders were leaking information that NASA was lying about losing its observer. But these claims were never proven. The public would have to wait 5 more years until NASA launched its Pathfinder mission in 1998. Suspiciously, NASA elected to use outdated cameras for this mission and initially refused to take any photos of Cydonia. After feeling immense public pressure, NASA took one new photo of the face of Mars, a grainy image taken in bad lighting and bad weather with multiple filters applied. This was not at all what the public was expecting. Later, a NASA contractor named Lan Fleming would go back to the source data to attempt to reproduce the image. Fleming was only able to reproduce the image after applying 14 different Photoshop filters. According to Fleming, this was not just an altered image, but a fraudulent attempt to hide the truth. Now, while Hoagland's theories have been rejected by the mainstream scientific community, the Cydonia anomalies present a compelling puzzle that calls for an objective examination. However, since the discovery of the face of Mars in 1976, NASA has shown no interest in studying or investigating the formations. Even if they are natural formations, why not openly investigate the area to be sure? Why continue to examine the formations in secret? Indeed, as each year passes and we learn more about this mysterious planet, the evidence continues to pile up that Mars was home to some form of life in the distant past. If the structures in Cydonia are eventually proven to be artificial, NASA's failure to investigate and its production of a fraudulent image in 1998 certainly point to one of the most malicious cover-ups in human history. In the aftermath of the Face of Mars photo incident in 1998, the mainstream scientific community was quick to dismiss allegations of NASA altering an image as part of a cover-up. At the time, many thought these were wild and baseless allegations. However, the claims of one whistleblower who came forward in the 1990s make these allegations even more believable. Donna Hare worked for NASA contractor Philco Ford from 1967 to 1981, spending the majority of her working years on site at NASA, and the story she tells is truly alarming.
During the 70s, I walked into the photo lab, one of the restricted areas. I did have a secret clearance. One of the gentlemen I had been friends with, he pointed my attention to one area of this mosaic, and I looked, and in one of the photo panels, I saw a round white dot. And at the time, it was very crisp, very sharp lines on it. I looked at him, and I was pretty startled because I'd worked out there several years and never seen anything like this, never heard of anything like this. I said, "Is this a UFO?" And he's smiling at me, and he says, "I can't tell you that." What I knew he meant was, it was, but he couldn't tell me. So I said, "What are you going to do with this information?" And he said, "Well, we always have to airbrush them out before we sell them to the public."
Donna was shocked that NASA had in place a policy to airbrush UFOs out of its pictures. Donna also speaks of other incidents involving NASA personnel destroying UFO photos. After she retired, she determined the issue was too important to keep secret, so she began speaking publicly about her experiences. Donna has offered to tell her story under oath before Congress. Donna's claims were very similar to the claims of another employee whistleblower, Dr. Ken Johnston. Johnston was not your average NASA employee. He held a top-secret clearance and was one of only 4 astronaut consultants responsible for training Neil Armstrong and the crew of the Apollo 11 mission. He was also a retired aerospace engineer and former active-duty Marine. In other words, Dr. Johnston was not the type of person to make up a story for attention. These facts make his claims even more unsettling. While Johnston was working for NASA as the director of the Data and Photo Department, he was viewing film from the Apollo 14 moon mission with his boss when he spotted something completely unexpected. According to Johnston, this film appeared to show bases and structures. That's right, evidence of intelligently designed buildings on the backside of the moon. After the initial viewing, he was directed to check the film back into the appropriate department. When returning the film, Johnston was greeted by contractors who were making alterations to photos and film. Now, this was not unusual, as NASA making minor alterations to photos and film was part of its standard operating procedures. The following day, Johnston was set to present the film to his fellow scientists. Much to his surprise, during his presentation, it became evident that the film had been altered to remove any evidence of the structural anomalies. After the presentation, Johnston questioned his boss about the moon structures. His boss winked and told him there was nothing there. Eventually, Johnston would be directed to destroy many archived photos of the lunar missions, some of which, according to Johnston, showed evidence of structures on the moon. NASA has not publicly addressed the specifics of Johnston's allegations, other than simply denying the existence of a cover-up and the intentional destruction of evidence. When it comes to UFO whistleblowers, not many individuals in the world can match the credibility of astronauts. These individuals are uniquely qualified to spot anomalous phenomena, and not surprisingly, countless astronauts have come forward to discuss their experiences.
During my flight on Gemini 4 in 1965, I saw an object in space fairly close to our spacecraft that I could not identify. It looked to me like maybe the upper stage of another rocket. I tried to take some pictures of it, but unfortunately the pictures did not come out properly. We never were able to identify what it was, and all of our ground radar tracking data indicated that there shouldn't have been another object anywhere near us at the time.
As I closed on this thing, well, it looked like a weather balloon, and that's what I presumed it was. And I had plenty of gas and time, so I decided I'd just come back around and make a pass on it. And I got around where I should have been coming back on this thing. All of a sudden, it didn't look like a balloon anymore. It looked like a saucer sitting on edge, about a 45-degree angle. And about that time, I guess whatever it was, for whatever reason, just took off climbing at about a 45-degree angle and just accelerated and disappeared. And I obviously couldn't follow it with an old piston engine fighter.
Illumination that was moving with respect to the stars. We were smart enough to not say, Houston, there's a light out there that's following us. So technically, it becomes an unidentified flying object.
There have been reported thousands and thousands of sightings for 50 years or so. Large numbers of those sightings are indeed misperceiving natural phenomenon in some way. But a large number of them are not misperceiving. They seem to be well-documented events that represent flying craft that do not match anything we have in an earthbound arsenal.
There is abundant evidence that we are being contacted, that civilizations have been visiting us for a very long time.
While astronaut sightings and stories are endless, the claims of two astronauts stand out. The first is Gordon Cooper, a highly regarded astronaut and engineer who was one of 7 astronauts selected by NASA for its first ever manned space program. While Cooper was serving with the U.S. Air Force in 1951, he and his fellow pilots witnessed hundreds of UFOs appear in the skies over West Germany during a 72-hour period. According to Cooper, the capabilities of these crafts easily surpassed the capabilities of the best U.S. Air Force aircrafts. Cooper and his comrades reported the encounter, but were ordered to forget what they had seen. His second UFO sighting occurred at Edwards Air Force Base in 1957. He and 2 colleagues were there for the purpose of capturing photos of the military aircrafts landing at the base. They found themselves in a state of shock as a large, traditionally shaped flying saucer silently landed 150 feet from their location. Having the equipment in place, they proceeded to capture images of the saucer before it took off and disappeared into the distance at an astonishing speed. Cooper reported the sighting to his commanding officer, who directed Cooper to send the film into the Pentagon. The Pentagon said it was misidentification, but the film was never made public. His third sighting would take place during the Faith 7 NASA mission in 1963. While orbiting the Earth, Cooper reported seeing green, glowing objects moving at incredibly fast speeds and being controlled in an intelligent manner. NASA, of course, did not acknowledge this sighting, which only became public after Cooper discussed it later in life. Following his retirement, Cooper became an advocate for UFO disclosure, urging the U.S. to declassify materials and collaborate with other countries to investigate the phenomena. If Gordon Cooper was the original astronaut UFO advocate, the torch was certainly carried on by the late Edgar Mitchell. An American hero and 6th man to walk on the moon, Mitchell was a highly accomplished astronaut. Having grown up in the famous Roswell, New Mexico, Mitchell was no stranger to the topic of UFOs. And while he did not discuss any direct encounters, he recounts a profound spiritual awakening following his moon mission. This awakening solidified his belief that we are not alone in the universe. After his time at NASA, Mitchell spoke with numerous high-ranking government officials and continued to investigate the idea of extraterrestrials. His research would only solidify his belief that not only did aliens exist, but according to Mitchell, the evidence that humans have made contact with aliens is overwhelming. In 2004, Mitchell claimed that there is a secret arm of the U.S. military responsible for retrieving crashed UFOs and alien bodies. A claim that in 2004 seemed like pure science fiction, but is now, almost 20 years later, being confirmed and corroborated by countless insiders and whistleblowers. Now, of course, Mitchell's views were not good for NASA. In response, NASA released a statement clarifying that Mitchell's views did not align with the agency's stance and that they were not involved in any cover-ups. Indeed, that has been the common theme. Despite countless astronaut UFO encounters and sightings, NASA has only very recently acknowledged the existence of UFOs. One astronaut, Scott Kelly, had this to say at the initial UAP hearing in May of 2023.
I'm just following up on the question about if NASA astronauts ever signed an NDA or anything of that, anything like that. In my experience of being in the astronaut office for 20 years, there was never any formal or informal discussions at all about UAPs or UFOs or anyone reporting anything that would suggest something from, beyond our planet.
Thank you very much.
But given all of the astronauts who have come forward before him, we are left with just another confusing and suspicious statement from NASA. Can his statement really be true? If it is, it would seem that NASA has been seriously careless with respect to a very relevant and important issue. The obvious problem with many of these alleged conspiracies is that all the public has are witness statements and allegations. The hard evidence has either been destroyed or is buried deep within NASA's secret vault to forever remain out of reach. For one British hacker, this reality was unacceptable. Driven by his curiosity about the existence of UFOs and government conspiracies, Gary McKinnon embarked on an audacious mission to gain unauthorized access to NASA's computer systems. McKinnon's sole objective was to find evidence of extraterrestrial technology hidden by the U.S. government. McKinnon spent hours poring over files and data, searching for any secrets related to UFOs or advanced technology. Then, finally, he did it. McKinnon unlocked NASA's secret stash of cosmic data, and in doing so, he found himself confronted by some truly weird material, including UFO photos and files that reference a secret space program. According to McKinnon, documents pertaining to this secret space program intriguingly reference non-terrestrial officers. If his claims are true, one can only imagine the implications. McKinnon's actions did not go unnoticed. He was removed from the systems before being able to download the data, and he was eventually tracked down by the U.S. federal government and arrested in 2002. McKinnon faced extradition to the United States, which could have resulted in severe criminal penalties. After 10 years of battling a series of legal proceedings and appeals, in 2012, the UK Home Secretary decided to block McKinnon's extradition to the United States. In the years that followed, McKinnon kept a relatively low profile. However, in a recent article, McKinnon was quoted as saying, "NASA will never tell the public the truth about aliens and UFOs." Unfortunately, the recent statements from NASA seem to indicate that this is true. That said, public interest in this subject is gradually gaining momentum, and one way or another, disclosure is coming. Will history remember NASA for its remarkable achievements in space exploration, or will it be remembered for deliberately concealing secrets of the universe from humanity? Only time will tell. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.